Welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of City Geek Lab, your resource for everything geek. We're talking movies, TV, comic books, video games, and anything geek. And I'm your host, Alan Ng. And coming up this week is Gerimi Burleigh. He is our Independent Comic Spotlight Artist of the Week, and he is the creator of Morningstar Comic. Then we're going to have a movie review of Saving Mr. Banks, and then we'll take a look at the 2014 Disney Studios movie roster. But coming up first is Gerimi Burleigh. Gerimi is an independent comic creator. He created Morningstar, which tells the story of the fall of Lucifer, but set in a Western setting. We spoke with Gerimi at the Long Beach Comic Book Convention, and here is that interview. I'm with Gerimi Burleigh. He is the author and illustrator of Morningstar. Hi.
Hi.
What is your story about?
My story it's Lucifer's fall from heaven, told as a Western. The idea is at the dawn of creation, the universe is a raw, untamed frontier, like a Wild West, and there's 7 archangels that are like the Magnificent Seven. Lucifer begins the story as their leader. He's actually the marshal of heaven, because he wasn't supposed to be evil. He was originally supposed to be the brightest of all the angels. And I tell the story of his tragic downfall, how he goes from being the brightest of the bright to the darkest of the dark.
What was your inspiration for the story?
I think that it's a very interesting idea. I took a little bit from Paradise Lost, a little bit from Unforgiven, but I started thinking about free will and predestination, and the idea of, if Lucifer actually turned against God, what was he like before he was evil? The idea not just of where he ended up, but the idea of how he got to where he is seemed interesting to me. It seemed like it wasn't something that I had seen explored a lot in popular culture, and I like drawing a lot of angels and devils, and really I was at a comic convention years ago, the San Diego Comic-Con, and I was just doing doodles of like angels and shotguns with trench coats, and they look like cowboys. I just said, there's definitely a narrative here. And I just started massaging the story over a number of years until I, crafted the book that I have.
Interesting. All right, and you're self-published?
Yes, I am.
What were some of the challenges that you faced publishing your series?
The hardest thing is time management, because marketing and selling a book and getting it printed up is a whole other job from the act of actually sitting down and creating it. So
it's the creative versus the business.
Yes, exactly. And you spend so much time writing and drawing, inking, lettering, doing all these things to make the actual artwork, the product, the thing that you're going to sell. And you want it to be something that's both, beautiful and poetic, but also something that has, a market value that people will be interested in. And by the time you're done with it, you're like, oh, I have this whole other job now.
Yeah, how do I get it to my audience?
Yeah, get it to even find an audience, to let them know about it, to get it in their hands. That's the hardest part, is balancing both those.
What's worked and what's been a struggle?
Well, I have a graphic novel that I did before Morningstar, and that one actually got into retail comic book shops. Okay. But that had been after I'd already been selling it at comic conventions for about a year, and then I contacted there's Diamond Comics Distributor. They distribute to most of the comic shops in the United States. That one, I didn't move a ton through it, but it was still an accomplishment to get that book out. Now with the new series I'm doing, I find that I'm mostly selling it at comic conventions. I also sell them through my website, which is optichouse.com. I have, some of my comics are there, both as print books that I'll mail out, digital books that are on, Kindle and a few other digital platforms. The biggest challenge I find, again, it comes down to time management, is that to get Morningstar into retail shops, the one thing retailers need is for you to have books out on a regular basis, either monthly, bi-monthly, or just on a schedule that they have it. And when you're an indie creator, usually you have a day job.
Right.
So I can only work on it a couple hours a night, give and take. That means that I can't necessarily stick to a schedule that's convenient for a retailer. And if retailers can't depend on a book to hit the stores on a regular schedule, they're not going to invest in it, not because they aren't supporting indie comics, because most comic book retailers would love to carry more indie books, but they also have the overhead, and that's the reason why Marvel and DC are so powerful and have the market share that they have, is because Superman is coming out every month. Batman's coming out every month, and when a book is late, there's a big uproar about it.
Yeah, and Marvel's producing every other week now.
Exactly.
They have a legion of artists and writers to pull from.
Yeah, so I look at it like the onus is on the comic creator to either be able to put out a graphic novel, so it's a complete product that the retailer can then sell to their audience based on what they know their audience likes, or if they're doing an indie book and that's going to be like in single issues, they have to be able to tell that retailer, look, look, all right, here's all 6 issues. They're done. This is going to come out on time.
Right.
Or have a big chunk of it done and be able to communicate with them and, build up. You have to build a relationship with them. And that takes time. And that's the heart. That's why Morningstar, I'm mostly doing conventions. And I probably may finish the entire series and then maybe do either a graphic novel or a whole new print run of single issues for the direct market later on, once I know that I can promise that's going to be in stores when I say it is.
Okay.
So that's the biggest challenge.
All right. So where can we find Morningstar?
Morningstar, go to my website. It's optichouse.com.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
All right. Thank you very much.
And that was Gerimi Burleigh. We talked to him at the Long Beach Comic Con. He's the creator of Morningstar, the story of Lucifer set in a Western setting. And again, if you want to purchase the comic book, go to his site at optichouse.com. That's OPTIC house.com. Just a little flavor of what it is to be an independent comic producer and the challenges you face trying to get your comic out to the public. You listen to KTSTFM. This is Secret City Geek Lab, and I'm Alan Ng. And coming up next is our movie review of Saving Mr. Banks. When Walt Disney's daughters beg him to make a movie of their favorite book, P.L. Travers' Mary Poppins, he made them a promise, one that he didn't realize would take 20 years to keep. In his quest to obtain the rights, Walt comes up against a curmudgeonly, uncompromising writer who has absolutely no intention of letting her beloved magical nanny get mauled by the Hollywood machine. But as the book stops selling and money grows short, Travers reluctantly agrees to go to Los Angeles to hear Disney's plan for the adaptation. Saving Mr. Banks came out on December 13th, 2013. It is directed by John Lee Hancock, runs just a little over 2 hours, rated PG-13. It was written by Sue Smith and Kelly Marcel and stars Tom Hanks, Emma Thompson, Paul Giamatti, Colin Farrell, Bradley Whitford, B.J. Novak, and Jason Schwartzman. For the purpose of review, I'm choosing not to research the actual story of Walt Disney and P.L. Travers, but I'm going to judge this as a movie itself. Saving Mr. Banks is a docudrama, which means creative and historical license is being taken in order to tell a story that is palatable for a general audience. Walt Disney Studios has intended to weave a marvelous story about getting the rights to P.L. Travers' Mary Poppins and how it was given to Walt Disney, and to be able to make it into what is arguably Walt Disney's best live-action film. The main story of Disney and Travers runs parallel to the story of Travers as a child growing up in Australia with her family. The main story consists of scenes featuring Walt Disney, Don DeGrady, and the Sherman brothers as they attempt to create a script that Travers will approve. Instead, it's really about Disney's struggle to understand why Travers holds the characters of her book in such high regard, and her fear that they are becoming Disneyfied, especially the character of Mr. Banks, her father. The second story, though, follows a young Travers who idolizes her banker father, a man who would much rather raise a family than run a bank, and a man who would make a promise that he could not keep. The two stories run parallel with each other, and they eventually come together at the end. The results will leave you with a tear in your eye and a new appreciation not only for the movie Mary Poppins, but for a new appreciation for the brilliance of the Sherman Brothers' music. Also, the final moment when Disney is able to convince Travers is poignant. He shows insight into why the author wrote the story in the first place. Tom Hanks and Emma Thompson deserve an Oscar nod for their performances. Although they probably won't win, they should be recognized anyways. Who would have thought that anyone could ever portray Walt Disney on the big screen, and Tom Hanks pulls that off. Two other performances I should call out. First is Paul Giamatti as the studio hired driver that takes P.L. Travers everywhere she needs to go in Los Angeles, and Colin Farrell, who plays her father and gives a really heartfelt performance in the movie. All said, Saving Mr. Banks is the feel-good movie that will make you laugh, tear up, and feel good. It's also a very clean, simple studio story. There's not a lot of fluff to it. The movie gets right to the action, and there's not a great deal of complexity to this movie, which may keep it from winning Best Picture at Oscar time. Oh, we have a caller. It's Thorin. You have a comment?
Hi, Alan. This is Thorin from Garden Grove. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I have to tell you that I'm so outraged with Saving Mr. Banks.
Why are you outraged?
Well, first of all, it's the Disneyfication of true events. I mean, the movie really made Mrs. Travers look real bad. First of all, facts that were not in the movie. Walt Disney met her only once and went away so that he wouldn't have to interact with her again. Two, the limo driver Ralph, well, he was a fabrication. There was no limo driver named Ralph that showed her and taught her the ways of Los Angeles. I mean, really. And then third, she never liked the final movie. Sure, she gave her permission to use her stories, and she went to the premiere and everything, but she never liked the final movie. And then, seriously, I doubt Walt Disney would follow her immediately to London by taking the next flight to chase after her. That just seems like a dramatic fiction. I will not be seeing this abomination of the film again, and I will hang up and listen to your comment. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. Yeah, I mean, the reality is this is not meant to be a true telling of the actual story. It's a docudrama. It's really meant to be a movie that tells a story in a dramatic way. You can kind of tell that these aren't real events that occurred in the way they exactly occurred, I should say, because things just happened a little bit too dramatically. And I seriously doubt, the high points of this movie actually, happened. But nonetheless, she did finally give up rights to, or allowed Disney to have rights to make her movie Mary Poppins, and he was able to make an amazing film out of it. So, yeah, I think if they showed the real events that happened, it would probably be a very boring and long movie. There's no real point of self-realization, and there's probably no real mountaintop moment that occurred in real life. But nonetheless, Saving Mr. Banks is a solid movie, and I give it 8 out of 10. All right, you're listening to KTSTFM. I'm Alan Ng, and this is Secret City Geek Lab. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the 14 movies that the Walt Disney Company is going to put out in 2014. That's this year. Ironically, of the 14 movies, nothing is coming from Pixar films, which is going to be kind of interesting. So at a rate of over a movie a month, Walt Disney Company is about to unleash 14 movies. And let's go down it. On February 28th, The Wind Rises, which is from Studio Ghibli, features the main character Jiro, who dreams of flying and designing beautiful airplanes, and is inspired by a famous Italian aeronautical designer, Caproni. Nearsighted from the young age and unable to be a pilot, Jiro joins a major Japanese engineering company in 1927 and becomes one of the world's most innovative and accomplished airplane designers. The movie chronicles much of his life, depicting key historical events including the Great Kanto earthquake of 1923, the Great Depression, the tuberculosis epidemic, and Japan's plunge into the war. Jiro meets and falls in love with Nahoku and grows and cherishes his friendship with his colleague Hanjo. Writer and director Hayao Miyazaki pays tribute to the engineer Jiro Hirokoshi and author Tatsuo Hori in the epic tale of love, perseverance, and the challenges of living and making choices in a turbulent world. That's coming out on February 28th from Studio Ghibli and being distributed by Walt Disney. Another movie that Walt Disney is just basically acting as a distributor is Need for Speed, which comes out on March 14th, 2014. After being released from prison for a crime he didn't do, a street racer, Toby Marshall, played by Breaking Bad's Aaron Paul, is set to race cross-country to avenge the death of his friend Pete. This is a DreamWorks and Touchstone movie with Disney acting as distributor. And then the movie we're all waiting for on March 21st is Muppets Most Wanted. This film takes the entire Muppet gang on a global tour, selling out grand theaters in some of Europe's most exciting destinations, including Berlin, Madrid, and London. But mayhem follows the Muppets overseas as they find themselves unwittingly entangled in an international crime caper headed by Constantine, the world's #1 criminal, and a dead ringer for Kermit and his dastardly sidekick Dominic. This teams up the original Muppet creators from Disney's The Muppet from 2 years ago, all except for Jason Segel, who's not writing it. And then before we go to a break, we're going to talk about Captain America Winter Soldier, which comes out on April 4th. After the cataclysmic events in New York and the Avengers, Steve Rogers, also known as Captain America, lives quietly in Washington, D.C., and trying to adjust to the modern world. But when the S.H.I.E.L.D. colleague comes under attack, Steve becomes embroiled in a web of intrigue that threatens to put the world at risk. Joining forces with the Black Widow, Captain America struggles to expose the ever-widening conspiracy while fighting off professional assassins sent to silence him at every turn. When the full scope of the villainous plot is revealed, Captain America and the Black Widow enlist the help of a new ally, the Falcon. However, they soon find themselves up against an unexpected and formidable enemy, The Winter Soldier. This comes out on April 4th, 2014. It stars Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Samuel L. Jackson, Anthony Mackie, and returning as Bucky from the original Captain America: The First Avenger is Sebastian Stan. That's going to be one of the 2 Marvel movies coming out next year. And we're back with KTST-FM. I'm Alan Ng, and this is Secret City Geek Lab. Let's continue on with the other movies that Disney is putting out next year. For Earth Day, April 18th, Disney is putting out the movie Bears. This comes from the Disney Nature series. Bears showcases a year in the life of 2 mother bears as they impart life lessons to their impressionable young cubs. Set against the majestic Alaskan backdrop, teeming with life, their journey begins as winter comes to an end and the bears emerge from hibernation to face the bitter cold. The world outside is exciting but risky as the cubs' playful descent down the mountain carries with it the looming threat of avalanche. As the season changes from spring to summer, the brown bear family must work together to find food, ultimately feasting on a plentiful salmon run while staying safe from predators, including the ever-present wolf pack. Bears captures the fast-moving action and suspense of life in one of the planet's last great wildernesses, where mothers definitely know best and their cubs' survival hinges on family togetherness. Bears comes out on Earth Day. It's narrated by John C. Reilly. Last year I had a chance to see, I think it was Chimpanzee, a really good movie, documentary style, but told with a story narrative along with it. Up next on May 16th is $1 Million Arm. This stars John Hamm. It's an upcoming biographical sports drama filmed based on the true story of baseball pitchers Rinku Singh and Dinesh Patel, who were discovered by sports agent J.B. Bernstein after winning the reality show competition. The film does star John Hamm as Bernstein, Bill Paxton aspiring coach Tom House, Surja Sharma as Singh, and Madhur Mittal as Patel, and Alan Arkin. The movie is scored by A.R. Rahman, directed by Craig Gillespie, and produced by Joe Roth. It's developed by Neil and Michael Mant. The film will be released in theaters on May 16th. On May 30th, though, is Maleficent, the story of Sleeping Beauty as told through the eyes of Maleficent. This one stars Angelina Jolie and Elle Fanning. We did talk a little bit about Maleficent during our D23 Expo recap a couple months ago. We'll go to our website at youtube.com/Secret City Comedy for a repeat and recap of the D23 events, especially this amazing tale of Maleficent, all done through her eyes and shot in 3D as well. And then finally, before our break, we're going to talk about the next movie coming up on July 18th, which is Planes, Fire, and Rescue. This is a sequel to the movie Planes, which came out a couple months ago. Even before the movie came out, they greenlit this sequel, and you'll see why. Dusty, a plane with dreams of competing as a high-flying air racer, but Dusty's not exactly built for racing, and he happens to be afraid of heights. So he turns to the seasoned naval aviator who helps Dusty qualify. Oops, no, you know what I'm doing? I'm reading you the recap of Planes. But basically what happens is Dusty goes out into the forest and he becomes part of the fire and rescue team. Movie was greenlit as a sequel because it does show light on heroes, people who risk their lives in order to save others from forest fires, and as people who also put out forest fires. It does star Dane Cook as from the original Planes. And let's see, Julie Bowen is going to play the love interest in that one. And we're back. You're listening to KTST-FM. I'm Alan Ng, and you're listening to Secret City Geek Lab. We're just finishing off the final movies that are being put out by Walt Disney next year. They've got a total of 14 coming out. The next one coming up is the second Marvel Studios movie, and it's October 1st, and it's Guardians of the Galaxy. If you're familiar with the comic book, it features a ragtag group of unlikely heroes and friends and aliens who go out to save the world. It stars, let me see if I can remember this. Okay, so it stars Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, Zoe Saldana as Gamora the Assassin, Dave Bautista, who's from the WWE. He is playing Drax the Destroyer. And then recently confirmed Bradley Cooper will be playing the raccoon Rocket Raccoon. He's a space alien who hates being referred to as a raccoon, but looks a lot like one. And then finally, Vin Diesel will voice the alien Groot, who is basically a tree, and all he says is, "I am Groot." They're going to go up against some intergalactic forces. We assume that Thanos is behind all this, but he is up against Benicio del Toro, who plays the Collector, and Ronan, who is played by Lee Pace. If you go to our website at secretcitycomedy.com/geeklab, you'll get the official synopsis and official promotional photo of Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's coming out on August 1st to theaters. Coming up on August 8th is The 100-Foot Journey, a story centered around an Indian family who moves to France and opens a restaurant across the street from the Michelin-starred French restaurant. Helen Mirren stars and Lasse Hallström directs. This is also a DreamWorks movie and is being co-produced with Touchstone Films and distributed by Disney Company. On October 10th, Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. This movie follows the exploits of an 11-year-old Alexander as he experiences the most terrible and horrible day of his life, a day that begins with gum stuck in his hair, followed by one calamity after the other. But when Alexander tells his upbeat family about the misadventures of this disastrous day, he finds little sympathy and begins to wonder if bad things only happen to him. He soon learns that he is not alone when his brother, sister, mom, and dad all find themselves living their own terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day. Anyone who says there's no such thing as a bad day just doesn't have one. This teams up the Jim Henson Company with the Walt Disney Company, and it stars Steve Carell, Jennifer Garner, and Bella Thorne from Shake It Up. That comes out October 10th. October 7th is Big Hero 6. This is the big animated film from Walt Disney Animation. It's set in fictional metropolis called San Francisco, mixed between San Francisco and Tokyo. Big Hero 6 is centered on a young prodigy named Hiro Hamada and his self-created robot Baymax, both of whom must uncover a criminal plot and must join a team of inexperienced crime fighters, including Wasabi no Ginger, Honey Lemon, Go-Go Tomago, and Fred. This is a first team up between the Walt Disney Company and Marvel Comics. That comes out November 7th. On November 21st is McFarland, a track coach in a small California town, transforms a team of athletes into championship contenders. That stars Kevin Costner and Maria Bello. And then finally, on December 25th, the movie a lot of you theater geeks are waiting for, it's Into the Woods, based on the Stephen Sondheim, James Lapine story of a Broadway hit, which is based on the conglomeration or the mix-up and mashup of various fairy tale stories, including Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, Jack and the Beanstalk. And it centers around the story of a baker and his wife who is looking to undo a curse that is preventing this couple from having a child. The movie stars Meryl Streep as the witch, Johnny Depp as the big bad wolf, has also Anna Kendrick and a few other stars in it. And that is coming out on Christmas, December 25th. It is a direct adaptation of the play by Stephen Sondheim and James Lapine. So that's our 14 movies that the Walt Disney Company is putting out this year. And with that brings us to the end of Secret City Geek Lab. Let me pull up my notes here just for a second. And let's play a little bit of music from Saving Mr. Banks. This has been episode 1 of season 2 of Secret City Geek Lab. If you have any questions or comments about today's show, call us at 755-591-8170 or at secretcitycomedy.com, secretcitygeeklab@gmail.com. We're going to see you and come back next week for more in the world of geekdom.